Back for another live stream, canceling the effects of stress. Holiday stress, it's brutalizing us. It's brutalizing you. But is this just a holiday season stress? I don't believe so. I think this is a year-round issue. Stress, we battle, we deal with all the time. Anxiety, we deal with, we battle all the time. Is it having a negative consequence on your health? Absolutely. Is it in particularly greater at this time of the year, during the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, where there's a lot of social gatherings, social meetings? Absolutely. I wish I had, I hate to use the word, some magical touch that makes this go away. But we're going to give you some tips, some keys as to how you can counterbalance it, how your lifestyle, what you do, how you sleep, how you eat, how you move, can negate some of these impacts. What are the negative impacts of stress? They're huge. I'm going to quote to you about social anxieties and how they affect us. Social anxieties are a huge problem. I mentioned even on the radio broadcast this morning that in the world of psychology, psychiatry, there's consternation. We need to define this social anxiety issue as a disease state, as a mental disease. And not to be controversial, I'm not so sure that it is. Let me tell you why I don't believe that it is per se. Because a lot of it is just our perception. You say, well, Joe, isn't a lot of other mental disorders and diseases all about? No, not really. I think there's a lot of neurochemical issues. It's very complex. I don't profess to have all the answers, but just listen to this. Social anxiety disorder, how to cope with it during the holiday season. Can you cope with it during the holiday season? Is it a huge problem? 'Tis the season to be jolly. This comes out of one of the medical news research outlets. It says, as for most people, this means attending an array of gatherings with family, friends, work colleagues, and so on. But while many of us look forward to such festivities, it is a different story with people with social anxiety disorders. Social anxiety disorder is characterized by the presence of fear, anxiety about social performance in situations in which a person is exposed to the possible scrutiny of others. Now that's the key word, possible scrutiny. So there's angst about being scrutinized. So I'm blending a couple topics here. I'm going to talk about social anxiety disorders, why you see it's pronounced when there's large gatherings, holiday season, not just in the workplace or if you have to be at work with a group of people, but it's very much pronounced because there are a lot of other stresses that follow into the season. How many folks come from broken homes, marital problems, abusive situations at home growing up, maybe current abusive situations. Maybe you're a parent or a grandparent and you have children and grandchildren that are wayward. Maybe you have some of your offspring that are in divorces, that are in bad situations as it is. Maybe some of them are on drugs. They're alcoholics. We've got huge problems, and they seem to culminate because there's so much about 'tis the season to be jolly, and that we're supposed to be a happy time. And so many folks are just crushed, overwhelmed with stress in their lives, the anxiety of situations in their lives. And we just want to give you some tools to help you deal with that. But before we do that, you've got to define some of these issues. The individual, what individual? Those that suffer from social anxieties overestimate their likelihood of being rejected and frequently fear that he or she will act in a way that will be embarrassing and humiliating. The individual overestimates the likelihood of being rejected. So it's our perception. So what do? We introvert. We don't want to be in these gatherings. We don't want to be out with folks. We do not want to be involved. So we become somewhat shut off from the world. Symptoms of the condition include anxiety around other individuals, inability to talk, self-consciousness, fears that others will judge them, and severe anxiousness, even weeks, let alone days prior to events. Another quick comment that I believe if people with social anxiety disorder have difficulties in large groups, and tend to be a staple for the holiday season. So that's why I'm picking on this particular subject right now. Social anxiety, characterized by the time of the year, not just your typical day-to-day things. It's an uptick at this time. but it's a year-round thing. So we didn't even know what to title this, so we titled it first, Anxiety in the Holidays, but, parentheses, year-round. Yes. Then we just said, how about just canceling the effects? Because that's what we're after here, canceling some of the effects of anxiety, because it's huge. It's a huge problem. So what does anxiety lead to? Well, a whole host of issues. It produces inflammation in the body. You produce a lot of inflammatory proteins. You've heard me discuss this in the past. It can change and alter your sleep. It damages portions of the brain, the amygdala. It can change the receptors and the receptor activity. It can alter serotonin receptor activity. It can imbalance your body's ability to make all these brain neurotransmitters that produce a sense of calm and peace and stability. So long-term, unbridled anxiety / stress. I know I'm running them together, but this all runs in a herd, so to speak. They're all running in the same direction. Whether it is stress from work, stress from a boss, from colleagues, school and work, family issues, or I have social anxieties that are greatly intensified at this time of the year. I'm not real concerned about the source of this oppressive situation. You just need to know that it's impacting you. Produces inflammation, damaged serotonin receptors, influence neurotransmitter activity, induce atherosclerosis, hardening of the arteries and plaque formation, literally influence your brain, affect your cognition, your memory, your thought process, melt your bones. It'll high cortisol, high adrenal output, dropping DHEA levels will affect your bone health. It will lead to high blood pressure, insomnia. Have I been negative enough? Have I oppressed you enough? I'm giving Josiah anxiety right now. He's moving away from me. He is becoming introverted, if you will, away from me right at this moment. No, seriously. Seriously. It's a big issue. It's a huge issue. Is it just around the holidays? No, it's year-round for many of you. Is it pronounced at times like this? Big time. Goes through the roof. More suicides this time of the year. More attempted suicides. More drug abuse, overdoses this time of the year. Lord help us. It's frightening. It's overwhelming. Canceling the effects. But before we start to cancel them, let's talk a little bit, just quickly, what it can do. Stressors, anxiety, all this arena. Let's run them all together. Nielsen, et al. And researchers back in 2001 showed that there were early death from all causes, 170% increase all-cause death, folks that were suffering from insomnia and sleep disorders due to chronic anxiety. Occupational injuries in men up almost 40%. They're not as focused or with it during the day because of their chronic stress, their social anxieties, their sleep disorders. When we perceive stress, when we just feel like we're under the gun all the time, even if we're not, the key word here is perceived. Why I said I started with this scenario with social anxieties, and you might be thinking, I'm not real sure where you're going with this. The individual overestimates their likelihood of being rejected and frequently fears that he or she will act in a way that will be embarrassing and humiliating to themselves. Overreacting, perception, perceived stressors, early death from all causes, up 32%. Perceived stress, death from respiratory disease, up 80%. Death from a heart attack, an MI, 150% increase. That's mind-boggling. I mean, I read an article the other day on the broadcast that literally an MI, a heart attack, can be precipitated by a broken heart, a broken spirit in an individual that's just overwhelmed with life. Death from external causes. External causes, something that you don't have any influence of, but you're maybe not as cognizant, you're not as careful. That could be auto accidents, that could be accidents around the home, that could be falling, that could be equipment that you're working with because you're not with it. You're not cognitively engaged because you're overwhelmed with stressors, you're anxious-ridden, you're anxiety-filled. Suicide, 500% increased risk of suicide in those that perceive stress. Again, perceived doesn't mean it's real. This social anxiety thing. You see how this ties? Adverse childhood experiences, abuses, abusive parents, loss of a father, 140% increase. Stress at work, folks that are under the gun all the time. Death from an MI goes up 200%, 190-some%. Death from all causes, when there's huge stress at work, 65%. Not enough reward for your work. Not enough reward for your work, up 300%. Divorces, 37% increase. I mean, should I go on? Major negative life events. Breast cancer. Breast cancer increase risk goes up over 500% in individuals that are under high levels of duress and stress. Look at divorce rates and then look at women within 3 years after divorce and look at what happens to breast cancer risk. Goes through the roof. So I don't need to go through, but I will to some degree. Your immune system damages it, weakens it. Your bones, your brain, your ability to think, to reason, your sleep patterns, your ability to make neurotransmitters, all impaired, all changed, all altered by chronic stress. So whether it's social anxieties with the holidays or it is that on top of all the other stressors that you engage. Just some signs and symptoms that the chronic stress is affecting you and chronic anxiety is beginning to affect your sense of well-being. Excessive fatigue after minimal exertion. I'm just blown out. I'm overwhelmed. I can't awaken in the morning. I just can't get up. I'm tired. I need caffeine. I need energy drinks to get me through the day. Blood pressure can be dropping. I get this perceived energy burst, sometimes 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. That's a sign, a perception of like the adrenals now finally kicking in. They've been behind the 8 ball all day. Now they're finally starting to surge for you. Chronic stressors. That's a key sign. Folks, I'm blown out early, but I start to do a little better later in the day. Bad situation. It's a sign of chronic distress, chronic anxiety, chronic overload. It's now damaged your adrenals. Your adrenals are acting aberrantly. Mental fog, poor thought process, poor memory. PMS goes through the roof in women. Craving salty foods, sugary foods. Your appetite goes down. In some cases, at two extremes. Insatiable appetite, or I just don't want to eat and I don't feel like eating. I'm sick all the time. I catch a cold. I get a flu. I mean, the list goes on. A lot of negative things, a lot of horrible things. Now, let me read you something real quick out of the book of Exodus, and I just want to encourage you because I believe that much of this, I'm going to give you some other tools, some practical tools. And I always say this, you could be a believer and you'll receive. You could not be a believer in the Bible. You could be an agnostic. You could be an atheist. I don't know where you are. But I will tell you, if you don't begin to incorporate someone outside yourself, outside of a counselor, outside of a mental health care professional, if you don't dig much deeper than that and go beyond what your capabilities and your abilities to change and alter your thought, your mind, your perception, and all that good stuff, and there's a role for that. But if you don't dig deeper than that, I'm not real sure how you or I are in a position to cope with those issues. Moses, this is God speaking to Moses. Moses said to the Lord, "Pardon your servant, Lord. I have never been eloquent, neither in the past, nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and of tongue." Now, there are other interpretations say that in essence he was a stammerer, he was a stutterer, he couldn't speak well, he had poor linguistics. He was an amazing man. He was well trained, he was well schooled. He had education with the best in Egypt at that time, the most powerful land in the world, of the known world at that time. And the Lord says to him, "Who gave human beings their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now, I will help you speak and will teach you what to say. I will help. That's what we need to hear. God will help you teach. He will help you to speak. He will teach you what to say. But Moses said, pardon your servant, Lord. Please send somebody else. In other words, just hold on. Pardon me, God, but you got to send somebody else. Then the Lord's anger burns against Moses, and he said, what about your brother Aaron the Levite? I know he can speak well. He is already on his way to meet you, and he will be glad to see you. You shall speak to him and put words in his mouth. I will help both of you speak, and I will teach you what to do. Moses suffered, in essence, from social anxieties. God, I can't do this. I can't speak to all these people. I can't be a leader of these people. They're going to laugh at me. They're going to perceive me to be an idiot. I'm going to be humiliated in front of your people. I can't do it. God says, I'll give you the words. Matter of fact, I'm going to bring your brother Aaron along with you, and I'm going to give him words. You shall speak to him and put words in his mouth. I will help both of you speak, and I will teach you what to do. He will speak to the people for you, and it will be as if it were your mouth and as if you were God to him. Take this staff in your hand so that you can perform signs with it. Moses, in essence, suffered from anxiety disorders. In Exodus 14, Moses answers the people after some confrontations and says, don't be afraid, stand firm, and you will see the deliverance of the Lord that he will bring today. The Egyptians, for you will see, will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Don't be afraid. Be still. Stand firm, and you will see. God's telling us sometimes, stand firm, hold your ground, be still before me, and watch and see that I don't move in your midst. Anxiety. A lot of issues. It precipitates a lot of issues. We're going to take a quick break. Just a couple of minutes here. When we come back, I'm going to give you a short overview of some, what shall I say, some counterintelligence. How do we counter the intelligence, if you will, these of what we perceive in our mind and our brain? It's going to affect us. All of us have some level of social anxieties. None of us look forward to getting up and speaking in front of people. None of us want to speak in front of a group or meeting. Many of us even have anxiety about being around our family in social gatherings. Perceived stress affects your brain, affects your systemic immune system, shortens your memory, impairs your cognition, can lead to depression, can affect your bone health, can affect your cardiovascular system. I am telling you, I don't even want to depress you with any more of how it affects you. We need to begin to raise a higher standard. Just as God said to Moses, Moses, I'll make it possible. I'll be with you. I'll speak through you. Stand firm. Be still. Know that I am God. We've got to have that level of confidence, of trusting in him to encourage you through these times. But I also believe God gives you wisdom about how to take care of yourself, how to take care of your body. We're going to give you a couple of those tools when we come back from this break. Stay tuned. This is like a production here. I mean, he's even counting me down. 3, 2, 1. Lead me to you guys. Hey, that's good to be back. Thanks for staying tuned with us here. Josiah at the break brought up some good points, that it's important that as you watch this and as we give you some tips and some tools how to deal with anxiety, what about family members that you know that are on medications, that are on meds like Xanax and Klonopin and Lexapros and paroxetines, and I mean, they're on Zoloft, Prozac, Ativans. They don't sleep. They're full of anxiety. They've got panic attacks. This even incorporates that arena to a great degree. Panic attacks are induced many times by anxiety that comes from situations, perceived stressors, driving in traffic. Boom. I have to go to an important meeting. I have to speak or I have to engage. Boom. I have to confront my ex-spouse. Pow. I mean, I'm having trouble with my child. I've got to go appear before the magistrate. I've got to go to school. They're getting, boom, panic attacks. You're on your way. Folks, this all falls in line here. So, and not that you're going to be telling your family members or your friends what to do, but have them go back and view the live stream. Have them go back and watch this. AskJoeD.com. Tell them it's simple. Say, just go watch this for a few minutes. I think you'll learn something. AskJoeD.com. Just have them go where you are, on the live stream. Now, on January 3rd, that Saturday of 2015, we're going to give you some real significant, I hate to call them New Year's resolutions, but I don't know what else to call them. I'd like to call them kind of a revolution, if you will. New Year's revolutions. What am I really going to change? I don't like resolutions because, I'm going to resolve to do this. But how many of you do it? How many of you legitimately do it? So I want to make it more practical. I want to make this functional, that I'm going to have you make and take some basic steps of change that I'm going to ask you to engage just on a daily basis. You eat this for breakfast. I'm going to ask you to stop eating that for breakfast, and I'm going to ask you to start doing this. You typically are too busy at work and you can't eat, and I'm going to give you a couple of tips. I'm just going to ask you that you're 3 or 4 of those days out of the week that you do this. You've got some habits about how you sleep. I'm going to give you some tips on some things to begin to rearrange what you do from a sleep standpoint. We're going to give you practical tips, some key things from a supplemental standpoint, lifestyle changes, New Year's resolutions. This will be our New Year revolution. Let's truly change. Let's make it a permanent change in our life and our lifestyle as we engage in just improving the quality of our health. I mean, I don't know how much time I have here. And the Bible teaches me that I'm a sojourner passing through. And I know that God's called me to impact as many of you as I possibly can to help you, whether it's with your physical issues, how to take care of yourself, emotionally, and even though I'm not a whatever you want to call, I don't even know. I'm a clinical nutritionist, I'm a naturopath, I'm a pharmacist, but I love God. And I want your life to be impacted by Jesus. And I'm going to read you one scripture out of the book of Acts that'll depict what the people that perceived the men of God at that time, the disciples, and what they said about them, that they were different. And they knew something about them that was different, and they used one key individual and his name. And that name, that individual, the Son of God, has changed eternity. All right? We want to see you make some changes. I believe I'm called. I believe I'm functioning in my calling. Doesn't mean I'm perfect. Doesn't mean I do everything right. Doesn't mean I'm not a failed human being, as I most certainly am. But I openly confess to you that I'm right where you are in most of your areas, quite frankly. And the key is not to get stuck and glued to that in your mind and your emotions, but to see yourself as God's made you, that you are a conqueror, that you can overcome, that you are able to make changes, that you can impact and change the lives of people. And that's what we're called to do. So I would pray that you would encourage others to watch this live stream. Make sure you're with us on January 3rd, 2015. We're going to give you some New Year's resolutions, and we're just going to say some New Year's revolutions. Am I going to this other camera? Is that what you're directing? Okay, I'm going over here right now. This is very, 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 very comfortable. Everybody's just loosen up, lighten up. Lifestyle, it cancels stress impact. Lifestyle. Now, what does that mean? How I live my life, day to day. So this is pretty simple. Why didn't you just say that at the beginning? I wouldn't have wasted all my time. You have to understand the negative impacts. You have to understand the horrific impacts of the stress in our lives, your life, my life. And if I don't do things to if I don't make changes to raise a standard to combat some of those stressful situations day in and day out, work or at the holidays, which are a huge time, if I do not, they begin to have a negative impact on all the things that I told you before. Depression, so on. During the holidays, we did a teaching on holiday tips. Just some holiday tips. You need to go back and review that. This kind of falls in keeping with here. If I suffer from seasonal affective disorders, anxiety disorders, if I suffer from panic attacks, if I'm under the gun a lot of my life and I have all these stress hormones that I kind of brushed over very quickly, noradrenaline, adrenaline, and so on, and cortisol, because I feel sometimes if I spend too much time there, it's not productive. I'm dwelling on the negative. But I need to preface everything I talk to you about so that you understand I'm not dreaming this up. If I battle this chronic stress state and I have social anxieties and I do bad in crowds and I just want to be away from crowds, or I have panic attacks, or my heart's racing, I just feel stressed, I feel nervous inside, I feel like my stomach's flip-flopping all the time, I am telling you that the basics are I've got to eat right. I can't skip meals. I've got to have complex carbohydrates for your breakfast. You can't eat muffins. You got to have maybe some steel-cut oats with some fresh fruit and some nuts on there. Well, you don't have time to make it. Yes, you do. Make it the night before. Soak it the night before in some almond milk or rice milk and just warm it up. It'll take you 5 minutes that morning. You don't have time for that? Make a high-protein smoothie. Frozen. I did it this morning. Clean source, whatever.
So emphatic.
So emphatic. I'm just throwing. Essential Meal Plus, 2 scoops. Frozen berries, a banana, almond milk. Drank one on the way and drank one here this morning while I was doing the radio. Yes, you can do it. I do it. You can do it. Your diet is critical. Lunchtime, during the day, sometimes you skip meals or you eat on the run. Have hard-boiled eggs. Do another smoothie if you have to. Have some cut-up chicken breasts. Make extra. Do not skip that lunch, and don't settle for a carb-loaded lunch. Don't eat a hoagie. Don't eat pizza. Those carbs will bog you down. They'll surge your blood sugars. We can't have that happen. Folks under high levels of stress, you're surging stress hormones. You can have an initial surge of blood sugars and then a corresponding drop in blood sugar, a hypoglycemic episode, which causes another surge of these stress hormones. You're on a roller coaster. You're going to feel bad. You're going to start craving more sugars. So the stress induces changes, but you can begin to cancel, literally. Now, why would I say that? Joe, you're dreaming this stuff, aren't you? You mean you brought me here to watch this and, oh well, I have it here somewhere. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Molecular Psychiatry, July 29th, this past year, Elizabeth Blackburn showed and proved that people that are in negative stress modes all the time, high anxiety, high stress, depression, pervasive type of stress disorders, anxiety attacks, looked at not just their weight and what happened, what happened to you in the course of your life. They looked at the telomeres. Remember, I've talked to you about telomeres. Watch the anti-aging video that we've done. Telomeres are on the end of your chromosomes. They're like little end caps. The higher the levels of stress and the more negative your lifestyle, those telomeres shorten more quickly. That's a mark of aging. What that means is the quicker they shorten, the shorter the lifespan of the cell, the shorter your lifespan. She took some individuals that under high levels of stress, lifestyles are overwhelming, followed them for a significant period of time. People that had very negative also lifestyle characteristics. They didn't eat well, they skipped meals, they didn't sleep, they had insomnia, or under a lot of stress, looked at and took those chromosomes and looked at their telomeres. Took another group that was attempting to counterbalance and cancel their lifestyle, their negative stressors in their lives with their lifestyle via sleep, via exercise, and via diet. Not even supplementation at this point in time, okay? Just those 3 characteristics. I think she won a Nobel Prize for this. 239 postmenopausal women, UC San Francisco, uncovered a significant decline in white blood cell telomere length. Now that sounds negative. No, there was a reduction and a decline. So meaning there wasn't as much of a shortening of those telomeres with every major life stressor that had occurred the previous year. It showed that there are some key areas that those that engage in healthy diet, physical activity, worked on experiencing quality sleep, seemed to be protective to the telomeres on your chromosomes and reduce the negative effects, the aging process. Now you're talking about aging, yes. Why? Because I told you at the beginning, stress damages your health. That's the key word. That's the undercurrent. It damages your health. By it damaging your health, you can begin to go down and look at a molecular level, at a chromosomal level, that those telomeres, as a response to that high level of duress and a poor lifestyle, they shorten quickly. So high levels of duress in your life will cause them to shorten. It'll age us. But I can counteract it. I can cancel it by how I live. Quality diet. Make a commitment. January 3rd, we will teach you how to do this on a daily basis. Number 2, if you do not sleep, I must get you to sleep. I must get you to sleep. Well, I've had years of, I know, I hear that all the time. Well, you don't understand. I was on Ambien for years. I do understand. Well, I got to use clonazepam. Well, you use those types of meds. Sorry to tell you, but you're not getting the deep REM sleep, and it's probably subverting your long-term ability to sleep on your own. Let's get you on some key supplements that will help you to sleep. You got to change habits. Do not get on your computer late at night. Do not engage your ex-husband late at night, your ex-wife. There's certain things that you cannot do 9, 10, 11, 12 o'clock. You cannot have that tablet, that iPad, that computer in front of you, and I'm reading and I'm going over and I'm reading. No. Lifestyle has to change. We've got to improve your sleep. Because I improve your sleep, I can cancel some of these negative effects of stress. Thirdly, exercise. Joe, you got to be kidding me. I don't have time. Yes, you do. I've already committed that today when I go home, I'm going to try to work out in my garage, Lord willing, and I'm even going to take my dogs for a walk. Taking my dogs out. I got 2 dogs. Why? I'm going to get some physical activity. Well, you're not under a whole lot of stress. Oh yeah. I have 3 kids. I run businesses. We got a lot of employees. We do a radio broadcast. I got to deal with Josiah multiple times a week. I mean, praise God. I need some kind of medal for that. Exercise. I got to get you moving. Joe, I don't have time. Go walk. I got bad knees. Let's get an elliptical bike. I did have a treadmill. It hurts my feet. Don't get on the treadmill. Try to swim. I got to get you doing something. Stretch. Put on a Leslie Sansone video. Go buy a P90X routine. I mean, you don't have to do what they do intensely. I do those. Scale them down. Do some basic exercise. Use your own body weight. Why? Because it counteracts the effects of stress on your body. This is lifestyle. That's all it is. Lifestyle changes. I think you get the picture. If I can change your diet and maintain it, if I can improve the quality of your sleep, and I can get you moving, I can slow down how rapidly those telomeres on your chromosomes are shrinking. Instead of them diminishing and that cell aging, that means you're aging faster, and you're going to be more prone not only to what we call senescence, the age, but you're going to be more prone to disease. What I started with, all that negative junk, heart attack, MIs, suicide, all that crazy, like depressing stuff. That's what we're going to be prone to. Can I cancel it out? I wish I would have told you I did this study. I did not. But I'm going to build on that, and I'm going to use whatever her name was, Elizabeth Blackburn's study to encourage and bless you with it. This is the first study that supports the idea, at least in an observational manner, that stressful events accelerate immune cell aging in adults. They did this on leukocytes, your white blood cells, even in a short period of 1 year. So if you've got a ton of stress, even for a 1-year span, 1 year, this ages you dramatically. 1 year. She says, exciting, though, is the fact that if I keep you active and I get you to eat right and I get you to sleep better during those periods, that high stress that is damaging you, aging you rapidly, I can dramatically slow it down. I can't stop it because those chromosomes for all of us, those telomeres are aging, they're shrinking down. That's why vitamin D. That's why the omegas. That's why quality multivitamins, daily essentials. There's a rationale, support here. Okay, quickly, because we're going to close. It's enough. Enough windedness here. The role of some nutrients. Is DHEA a probability for you? And pregnenolone is a precursor, to cortisol. Yes, it is. DHEA, pregnenolone. Well, I would rather make sure that we have an adrenal stress panel done before we do that. But if you're under a lot of stress, you need to call the off-air number or send an email, askjoed.com, to support. Address it to Diane, Terry, Josiah. They'll get it to Terry. Call the off-air number. Speak to Terry, 888-865-9595, 888-865-9595. Talk to Terry. Why? Get one of these kits. Let's find out what your adrenals are doing. 865-9595. This can dramatically help you because these become dramatically altered and imbalanced. Some of you, and we can't work with you if you're out of state, but if you're in state, in Pennsylvania, some of you are candidates for hydrocortisone time release. You are. Because it'll help attenuate the stress. It'll help your adrenals. Even if you do it for 6 months, a year, let your adrenals recuperate, and then we kind of can wean you off. Let your adrenals restore. Your adrenals become depleted. Use a prep adrenal essentials. We have adaptogenic herbs in there. They're documented to work and to help you battle stress. Let's get on some coenzyme Bs. We got coenzyme B50, a great form of the Bs. Helps you battle stress. Buffered C. Oh my goodness. Can I forget? Can't forget C. C's huge. There's a lot of different directions you can go. Right? Phosphatidylserine, phosphatidylcholine, goodness gracious. Cordyceps sinensis, I can go all different directions. But you know what I want to always do is drive you to the basics. I know if I can get you doing the basics, right? If I can get you doing these things, I know that I can impact your health. And this was key for me for this research piece that comes from the Journal of Molecular Psychiatry. The problem that I have with this is that will go nowhere unless someone like myself is talking about it. Now, what would I mean by that? It's going to go nowhere because it's going to be perceived that, well, what we really need to do is to do now more studies. This was observational, you know. We have to do a double-blind, randomized control trial. How do you do that? You say, now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cause you to be divorced from your wife. We're going to get your kids hooked on drugs. I mean, how ridiculous. How ridiculous. Why is it that we can't extract information when we observe two groups? High stress, you do all the wrong things, lifestyle-wise, and let's measure the telomeres, a marker of aging and damage and potential disease. The next group, high stress, doing the right things to the degree that you can, sleep, diet, exercise, supplementation, doing the right things. Measure those telomeres. This group, your telomeres, dramatic decline in the amount of reduction. It doesn't diminish nearly as quickly as the other group. What's wrong with observing that level of information and saying there's something to it? Observational can be used without question in my mind. Thank you, Elizabeth Blackburn. Hugely helpful. And I mean that, hugely helpful. There's a lot of other areas we can go with this. I think you got the message. I would hope you do. Key supplements can help us here. If you're not doing even something like the daily essentials, that's a huge mistake. We've got to get you on the daily essentials. We just added in K2 along with K1. We added in some iodine. I tell you, well, I'm going to do an entire show just on iodine because it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. With atrial fib, thyroid, bone health. There's a lot of issues. Fibrocystic breast disease, breast cancer, iodine is a huge player. Essential sleep. I love this. I use this myself. So does Josiah. 1 to 2 a night. I do. Praise God. I am not ashamed to admit it. I am not ashamed to. I tell you, last few nights I've used 2 before bed. That's my routine. Why? Joe, I thought, man, you teach this stuff. I thought you had it all together. I thought you eat right, you sleep right, you exercise. You're the man. You should have all this down pat, right? If you think that I am not as liable to the same types of distressors as you are, please, come on. Why? I just love holding, those, what are those things called, with those little bones at night with my dogs. Just let them chew on them. Because it's like a stress reliever for me. I take them for walks. It's a stress reliever. I mean, we have a lot going. We have a lot of demand. Getting prepared for these things. I don't want to give you bad counsel. My brain is racing sometimes at night. My thoughts, next day, this week, employee issues. There's always something going on. Always. That's right. January 3rd. Josiah, tell me what we need to do January 3rd. Thanks, Josiah. Okay. We're planning that already. I use essential sleep. Why? I can tell you when I don't sleep, I don't function the next day, clearly. So I was using 1 for a couple of weeks, and I was awakening at about 3:30, and then taking an hour, and I'm just like there, and like my brain is like going. You didn't do this on the radio. Okay, you didn't do this. You get these consults coming this week. That's a huge problem. Oh my goodness. Geez, you got to get the tires changed on the car. You got to do this. I'm like, whew. Before I know it, it's like 5:15. I get up at 5:30, 20 to 6. I'm awake. What in the world? I take 2. I'm sleeping. I'm more refreshed. I'm more functional. Not rocket science. Do a ton of buffered Z. I do my daily essentials. I do adrenal essentials. I do 25 milligrams sublingual DHEA. Men, yes. Women, no. 5 to 10. But you have to do these things. Can I stop myself from having stress? No. I can't. But I know many of you have to know that this social anxiety thing that I talked to you about during the holidays is a huge problem. And then not only just at the holidays, it's year-round. Because those stressors we perceive. I'll say the wrong thing. I'll speak the wrong thing. People will laugh at me. I will be humiliated, right? What did I read? The individual overestimates their likelihood of being rejected and frequently fears that they will act in a way that will embarrass themselves. You will humiliate themselves. Moses. I'm going to close with Moses. I'm going to hope the Lord gives me a good closing word here. Moses. And Moses said to the Lord. Now, let me go back here. Verse 8, Exodus 4. Then the Lord said, if they do not believe you or pay attention to the first sign, they may believe the second. If they do not believe you or pay attention to that first sign, they may believe, but if they do not believe you or these signs and do not listen to you, take some of the water from the Nile, pour it on the dry ground. The water you take from the river will become blood on the ground. God's given Moses instructions. So many of you and I have to carry out instructions. And of course, are they? Whether it's from an employer, I've got things to do, we're supposed to carry out instructions. Here's Moses' response. Moses said to the Lord, forgive me, Lord, can you just hold on a second here? I'm not an eloquent man. And he didn't say this, but I'm well trained. I've been trained with the best. I have been given a skill set. I'm a seasoned man. God had seasoned Moses for years. But he says, God, I can't speak, man. I'm afraid. You know what? They will laugh at me. If I start talking to them, they're going to laugh at me. Neither in the past, since you have spoken to your servant, I am slow of speech and of tongue. Social anxiety, in essence. Fear of humiliation. Fear of disregard. That they won't listen to him. But he was given an edict, if you will, from God. Lord says to him, who gave you your mouth, Moses? Who put this in place? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go. The command was, now go. So you and I need to go into these settings. We need to confront our fears. You need to go drive in traffic. You need to go into your family situations that you feel impaired in. Now go. I will help you speak, and I will teach you what to say. Now go. He will help you speak. He will teach you what to say. God will give you the coping skills that you need. Remember, it's our perception in many cases. Let our perception be what the Word of God says about us, not what man says about us, not what I perceive. I get up here and do these things with you. I speak from my heart. A lot of these things I try to do myself. And then I know that the literature and the science backs me up. I hope this blesses you. I hope it encourages you. Let's get your friends, your family members. They're on meds. They're on anti-anxieties. They're on antidepressants. Get them to watch this. I think it helps them. Number 2, January 3rd, we're going to give you some more key tips to legitimately not just make a resolution and then come the 15th of January, you're out of step and you're not doing it anymore. No way. In Jesus' name, we're going to have you make some changes that'll be lifetime changes. And we're going to take small pieces of your life and encourage you to do these basic things. It'll incorporate reading your Bible. It'll incorporate how you eat at breakfast. It'll incorporate what you snack on. It will incorporate just an overview of understanding of some basic lifestyle issues and ordering your life. God bless. Thanks for being with us. January 3rd, 2015. Make sure others view this one. I think it'll help them. Remember, it doesn't matter where they are. They could be in the service in Thailand. It doesn't really matter. Get on the computer. AskJoeD.com. Blessings to you. May you have a blessed Christmas, a blessed holiday. I pray His peace upon you. Thanks for tuning in and being a part of what we do. God bless.